When Marvel's What If series on Disney Plus was first announced and ultimately released, it was not met with nearly as much initial excitement or intrigue as the likes of WandaVision or the Loki series. And though the show had a solid overall performance, there were a few standout characters from its run that have since become fan favorites. One particular standout in question is informally known as Infinity Ultron, and this iteration of the character was created in a universe where Ultron was successful in uploading his consciousness to the Vision Vibranium body. Throughout this episode, we are able to see the calamity that was wrought on his home universe before ultimately Ultron breaking free of the confines of his own home universe and turning his attention to as many neighboring timelines as he could set out to conquer. While we haven't seen Infinity Ultron since the conclusion of What If, many avid fans have theorized at the possibility that he might return in the upcoming Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So, stick with us today, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, and let's break down a few different ways as to how exactly this might happen, and assess the likelihood of seeing Infinity Ultron again this May. The last we saw of Infinity Ultron, he had his mind corrupted by the disembodied code of the infamous Hydra scientist Arnim Zola, and it appears as if the prime iteration of Infinity Ultron that we know is now no longer alive, though comic fans will know that Ultron is not so easy to kill. The body of Ultron, controlled by the mind of Zola, is currently being held in a pocket dimension controlled by Strange Supreme, destined to battle Killmonger for dominance of the body in eternal exile. And the Watcher warns that if this pocket dimension cracks, the consequences could be disastrous if the two are ever unleashed yet again. In the Marvel Multiverse of Madness teaser, however, we get a glimpse at a character who by all accounts seems to be the live-action iteration of Strange Supreme, not to mention in a following trailer Ultron bots, and at this point in time it is rumored that these bots are actually being controlled by Superior Iron Man played by Tom Cruise, who is also apparently a member of the group known as the Illuminati, along with other characters such as Professor X and potentially even others such as Black Bolt. However, back to Strange Supreme and him being tasked with watching over Infinity Ultron. If this is in fact Strange Supreme in the trailer, then it seems to indicate that he has abandoned his post as the watchful guardian of this pocket dimension, and Infinity Ultron overall. It is important to note, however, that while all signs point to this being Strange Supreme, it is still possible that this is not the same iteration from What If, though for this theory, we will be assessing what may happen if this is in fact Strange Supreme. If this is in fact the same iteration of the character, then it might indicate that the dimension has already broken, or is currently being left unguarded somewhere, where it might end up cracking at some point during the duration of Doctor Strange's second solo outing. And potentially one of the most dangerous Marvel villains of all time could be breaking free. Breaking this pocket dimension would entail the release of two incredibly powerful beings, the first of which being Arnim Zola, who is now in control of Vision's vibranium body, and a version of Killmonger that now sports the vibranium chassis, and are both battling for control of the set of Infinity Stones assembled by Ultron. While these two individuals are not technically Infinity Ultron, we will be addressing Ultron in just a moment. Their presence could pose incredibly dire threats for not only whichever reality they find themselves in, but any neighboring reality that they can jump into, as we saw was capable by Ultron. Given the fact that two time stones were used for their specific purposes in one reality, it stands to reason that according to the MCU's logic, the Infinity Stones may be viable uses beyond their home reality, which would deviate from comic precedent whilst building the stakes for the Multiverse of Madness, as presumably there could be an infinite number of Infinity Stones. Now though, let's discuss the possibility of Infinity Ultron as we knew him throughout episode 8 and 9 of What If, making an appearance in the film itself, and a few different ways that this might ultimately occur. Option 1 is that Zola did not completely corrupt Ultron's mind, and at some point he will be able to regain control of his body and reassume his previous position as an incredibly powerful interdimensional tyrant. Given that he is an incredibly powerful collection of code that has been constantly building and continually evolving throughout his conquests, it is not unreasonable to believe that he might ultimately be able to overpower Zola if a fragment of Ultron's mind remains, with his code simply being superior. This would allow the very same iteration to make an appearance with his experiences and motives still intact. Option 2 is that elsewhere in the multiverse there is a variant of Infinity Ultron who sports the same power set and collection of Infinity Infinity Stones, only he has not yet broken through the confines of the multiverse, and this too seems to make sense. Prime Infinity Ultron broke through the veil between realities after hearing the Watcher speak, and he was only able to turn his attention to space between realities after hearing something from beyond the barriers of his home reality. We know that the Watcher is not an entity who is confined to one universe, and Jeffrey Wright's version of Uatu may be the only variant of Uatu to exist throughout the entirety of the multiverse. Therefore, it stands to reason that this is the only time he has spoken within earshot of an iteration of Infinity Ultron, and all other variants of Ultron who live in identical or similar universes are contained to their own realities, since they didn't have the means to hear anything beyond their universe as of yet, with this being the thing that allowed Ultron to break free of his home reality. After all, if there was a second iteration that was able to cross between timelines, it stands to reason that this would have taken the Watcher's attention away from this Prime Infinity Ultron, and he would have unleashed just as much carnage on the multiverse as his primary counterpart. It's incredibly unlikely, however, that in a multiverse of quite literally infinite possibilities, that there is only one reality where Ultron defeated the Avengers and was able to fully evolve himself in the manner that we see in What If. Since none of these variants have ever heard the Watcher, however, none of them have escaped into the multiverse. This leaves the possibility open for Doctor Strange to enter a reality where another iteration is reigning supreme and dominating his new reality, or neighboring reality that only slightly deviates from the universe that we are introduced to in episode 8 of What If. If this is the case, then What If's Ultron could serve to build the stakes and establish the risk of letting another version loose on the multiverse. The Guardians from episode 9 were only barely able to contain the carnage caused by just one variant of this iconic character. It's also important to note that Haley Atwell has been widely rumored to make her live-action debut as Captain Carter, and Captain Carter's shield is even spotted in the poster for Multiverse of Madness, meaning it's basically confirmed, adding even more connective tissue between the events of What If and the upcoming Multiverse of Madness, given how both Captain Carter and Strange Supreme seem to be involved in some way in the plot. It's reasonable to believe that their greatest nemesis might also make an appearance, but is it likely for this to take place, and could Infinity Ultron simply just be a cameo? If it does come to fruition, then there are two main possibilities yet again. The first is that he would likely either serve as a glorified cameo or set up something larger while being given minimal screen time, in order of course to make way for the overarching plot of Multiverse of Madness, which presumably does not revolve around him. Doctor Strange has a lot to cover in this film, and if Ultron is involved, then he would most likely be relegated to a cameo, or option 2, he would serve as one of the largest overarching antagonists of the film with little room in between. Either he's a cameo or he's the main villain. Infinity Ultron is incredibly powerful and one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe, and if he is present, he would likely garner most of Strange's attention, and if he is to be anything larger than a brief appearance, he needs this attention. Given that he is not likely to be the overarching antagonist, however, of the series, the first option regarding him as being a brief appearance or cameo seems to be likely, and I hope that this does actually happen, but this again is unconfirmed as of yet. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of Infinity Ultron as a character? Would you like to see him return in the future of the MCU? And if so, how do you think his return would make the most sense? As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I hope you have a great day.